Okay, I'd like to call the Wilton Board of Education to order on June 9th, 2011. I'd first like a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'd like to invite anyone from the public who wish to speak to the board to come forward. Certainly welcome to speak before we go down. Seeing no one, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We now move on to the presentations of the school yearbooks.
And we're going to start with Cider Mill. He said confidently. You're right. And hopefully.
While they're getting their things ready, I'd first like to thank Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Fazio for spearheading all our Cider Mill fifth graders who have worked on our Cider Mill yearbook, the Apple Core. And with us tonight we have Maya, who would love to share with you some of her thoughts and how we did this year. Maya, why don't you come up a little closer?
We meet every month, once a month, and we had to identify different kids, and it was really cool seeing all the pictures going from pieces of paper to the computer to the final product, and I'm happy I could help create the yearbook for my fifth grade class, and I'll always remember my last year at Cider Mill School.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
And the children will be receiving their copies of this Monday afternoon. We have field day for fifth grade, hopefully Monday morning. And in the afternoon, we will have a celebration of yearbook celebration for the children, where they will take time sharing appropriate sayings with each other in their yearbooks. And we do have a little mini
You
lesson
believe that?
before. I remind children that when they're writing things in other people's property, it is property of others, so we do remind them of the appropriate etiquette that goes along with that. And Maya and Moms would like to share those with you tonight.
Thank you.
This way?
Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much.
We gave you a drum roll.
I know. Is that an editorial remark?
Okay, one for the teacher.
Really impressive.
Wow, we didn't have any.
When I was in school year, it was
Thank you, Maya. And
Mimeograph,
I hope that everybody enjoys
Oh, I do too.
seeing it. I know the children have lots of fun doing this. And as Maya said, the groups of children from each house and each class, there were representatives from each class who met during their lunch period. So they really enjoyed doing it. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Susan Lavavera, and I'm the advisor for the Brooks yearbook staff. This year, the yearbook is done all on computer, and I'd just like to thank the board for their support of our technology in our schools, because it helps us create our wonderful book. And our staff members would like to say a few words before we present you with the yearbook.
Hi, I'm Cece Babchek. I joined Yearbook because I love taking pictures. Yearbook is a great experience, and you can show your creativity. Mrs. Vera and Mr. Matthews made it a great year. I got to see what pictures go into the yearbook. I think it is good that students get to create the yearbook because it is a chance to show our year.
I'm Jordan Helene, and I joined yearbook this year because being an eighth grader this year, I really wanted my last middle book yearbook to be really special to me. And I really enjoy coming every week and seeing Mrs. Oliveira and Mr. Matthews. And I love to use my creativity and really kind of becoming more artistic this year than last year. So.
Hi, my name is Jessie Bartels. I joined Yearbook because I wanted to be a part of something involving the school. Yearbook is very fun because I like making collages and setting up all the pages on the online site. It has been a very good experience.
Thank you very much. And now, who's that for us? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Watch the wires. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hefty book.
I'll take a look. Oh, this is beautiful. It is. Wow.
2 pages for ice cream at lunch.
My favorite sentence.
Hi,
Hi, Rosie.
I'm in charge of the high school yearbook, and my editor
Hi.
is Sue Lee, and she'll talk a little bit about it.
Hi, I'm Susan Lee, or Sue Lee. I was editor-in-chief for yearbook this year. I've been working on yearbooks ever since my freshman year, and that finally it was my senior year, and it was my yearbook. I was excited to start it. This year I made the cover a little more classy. The XI stands for Class of 2011, and if you look at it, there's all the names of the seniors in it. It's going across the entire book, so people can find their names on it. I used a software provided by the Jostens company, and it's basically an internet website where you can work on it anywhere at any time. So kids were able to upload or edit at home, and if I email my staff members, they would finish a page and email back to me, and I can check online at home anytime. It was very convenient, and yeah.
Sounds like it was just a piece of cake.
No, it was a lot of effort.
Sure.
Especially with the sports writings. All the captains were very helpful. They wrote their write-ups and sent it to me this year. So that saved me from a lot of trouble and researching sports teams. The teacher, the faculty section, I actually went in, and Mrs. Herr went in to put in all the captions for all the teachers, or for each picture. And I think that's about it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do Cape first. Okay. We'll move on to some of the student awards, and this is truly a wonderful time, and just like to read an introduction here. Upon completion of 185 years. Oh, oops, sorry, we're in the wrong area. Oops. Whoa, gotta get my.
185 for you?
Do you have the Cape Awards? Are we starting with? Yeah, these were the two. Yeah. I think Kelsey Brown.
Let's see. Would you like to come
Would you like to come forward?
All right.
Wherever you're going.
Has it really been 185 years? Just feels like it.
It's been a long time. The Connecticut Association of Boards of Ed does provide for a Student Leadership awards, and this year Kelsey is the recipient of one. And I'd just like to read a short piece. Compassionate, helpful, kind, empathetic, grounded, self-directed, mature, and academically sound are words used to describe Kelsey Brown. Along with being successful academically, Kelsey's committed herself to helping others through her many school and community activities. Kelsey's been an active member of many organizations, the National Honor Society, the Task Force to Reduce Substance Abuse Among Youth, co-chaired this year, the Wilton High School Students in Politics, Peervention, Kids on the Block, the Wilton Congregational Church deacon and Sunday school teacher, Children of the American Revolution and society president for 08 and 09, and state vice president for 2010-2011. And Operation SMILE, International Student Leadership, 2-time participant. Kelsey has also been a class officer for the class of 2011 in the 10th and 11th and 12th grade. She also swims on the Wilton High School swim team and was a former member of the Wilton Wahoos. She has also been employed as a lifeguard and swim instructor at the Wilton Riding Club in the summer, and continues now to babysit for several families, tutor. Do you have any time for it? Work as a cashier of Carluzzi's Market. That takes time. Kelsey will attend Elon University in the fall, and it is a pleasure that I present Kelsey with the CABE Student Leadership Award.
That's the 185. There you go.
Oh, there we are. There we go. Kelsey, thank you. Congratulations. Now, I'd like to ask Brandon Ray to come forward. The CABE Leadership Award is given to students who show leadership skills, including willingness to take on challenges, concern for others, diplomacy, and ability to understand international issues clearly and academically, and the ability to honor a commitment. This is Brandon Ray, strong academically, admirable, conscientious, and a true gentleman. Academically, Brandon is an outstanding student, earning a 3.8 GPA, while taking a heavy load in advanced placement and honors level courses. He is a National Merit Commended Scholar, an AP Scholar, and a member of the National Honor Society. He received the Brandeis University Book Award last year, and along with many awards in Latin, Greek, and music, he has also been on several theater productions over the past 4 years. Brandon will attend Wake Forest University this fall. Brandon is very active in student government, serving as a class officer in grades 10 and 11, and on the executive board as treasurer this year. He's also been a force in the school's Key Club and involved in organizations and implementation of all projects, while serving as secretary in the 10th grade and vice president this year. He's also been involved in the Junior Project Friendship, the Wilton's Children's Theater as an assistant to the director, a student board member of Poetry in Motion, and youth basketball coach. Brandon is also a participant in several of leadership conferences. Brandon is a natural leader and very committed and passionate about his academics, activities, and being there for others. It is a pleasure that I present Brandon Ray with the CABE Student Leadership Award.
The next set of awards are given by the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, CAPS. It's a statewide group that advocates for schools and students, provides staff development for its membership, and assists school districts with legislative information. Each year, our organization recognizes outstanding members of the graduating class, and the award that we give is based on community service and service to others, academic prowess, leadership, service to the school community. Tonight, it's my honor and privilege to present CAPS Superintendent's Awards to two very deserving members of the Wilton High class of 2011. The first honoree I'd like to have her come forward is someone you just heard from, Sue Lee. So Sue can come forward. Sue Lee is a role model for everyone. Dynamic, independent, worldly, artistic, kind, mature, and motivated. She is exceptional, friendly to all she meets, and a true leader among her peers. Sue came to Wilton at the beginning of her sophomore year after moving 9 times between the United States and Korea. Sue jumped right into life at Wilton High School and has never looked back. taking on an extremely active role in many organizations. You heard her tonight. She served as the senior editor of the yearbook, and her yearbook advisor you also heard from tonight, Mrs. Rusty Hurd, gave her the highest praise in leading yearbook staff. I mean, it is, Sue talked about the program she used and so on, but it's an extraordinary, challenging position, and we could not put together the yearbook that you have received tonight without your leadership. And I know the follow-up and the meetings and corralling all the information and getting her to meet their deadlines, it's huge. Sue has also served as Vice President of the National Honor Society and Vice President of the Interact Club. She's been a member of the math and debate teams and has been the manager for several sports teams. In her spare time, she has played on the golf. In her spare time, she played on the golf team. At the end of her junior year, Sue received the Cornell University Alumni Book Award. Every summer, Sue travels back to Korea, where she has interned several companies. While there, she has also volunteered her time to work with the homeless and has painted murals and delivered rice to underprivileged villages. Sue is a high honor roll student who will be attending, and it pains me to say this as a USC alum, the University of California at Berkeley. It's better than UCLA, though, I got to say. Thinking about majoring in art aesthetics, and I think you've had a lot of experience in art aesthetics and putting together this beautiful book that we received. Sue, on behalf of the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, it's really an honor to present you with the Superintendent's Award for 2011. Our second recipient tonight, I'd like to have him come forward, is Patrick Connolly. Patrick is a dedicated, loyal, compassionate, intelligent, and personable young man. He is also a greatly respected and admired leader of the class of 2011. Patrick has been actively involved in Wilton High School, serving as president of the Key Club this year and vice president during his junior year. He was captain and president of the math team his senior year and vice president during his junior year. Seems to be a theme here. And is a member of the National Honor Society. He has been active in an organization you heard about earlier, Operation Smile, and the Jericho Partnership. Patrick also finds time to work out and run 4 to 5 times a week. Patrick, that exceeds my yearly total. That may be obvious. Patrick is also an academic, high honor roll student who is interested in learning more about the world around him. He finds joy in seeing how things work and is one who relishes being given a problem and working it through to completion. He's an extraordinarily well-rounded student. During his years at Wilton High School, he has won several medals on state and national Latin exams. He ranked 4th in the county on a first-year chemistry Olympiad, was a top scorer on the AMC, that's American Math Council, exam, and earned recognition as a Hugh O'Brien Youth Foundation finalist his sophomore year. And that Hugh O'Brien Award is a national award, and it's for some of the most outstanding sophomores in high school in the country. He was the recipient of the Dartmouth Alumni Book Award at the end of his junior year. Patrick will attend the University of Notre Dame in the fall. Patrick, it's my pleasure to award you the CAP Superintendent Award for 2011.
And now it's a time that it's a time for joy and celebration, but it's also a time for sadness, as we do say goodbye to a number of teachers and administrators. I'll just read the list before we go into detail, but the following employees will be retiring this year: Arlene Gottesman, Sheila Henry, Barbara Klein, Michael Flug, Susan Reed, Sandra Breland, Charmaine Hazard, Carolyn Jopling, Cecilia Schreckgast. Upon completion of 185 years of faithful service to the Wilton Public Schools and to the children of this community, the Board of Education hereby records its sincere appreciation and unreserved commendation for these years of diligent devotion to professional responsibility. In public recognition of this service, these citations are presented by the board at its meeting on tonight, June 9th, 2011, and are recorded in the proceedings of this meeting. In addition, a book is presented to the appropriate school library of the individuals. And so I will begin with presenting Arlene Gottesman. Arlene, want to? Listen.
I'm still laughing.
Arlene has had a distinguished 36-year career as a teacher, counselor, curriculum coordinator, high school principal, and assistant superintendent. She has served in the schools of Norwalk, Milford, Newtown before joining us in 2007. Her career began in 1977 in the Norwalk Public Schools, where she served in many capacities. From 1977 to 1986, she was physical education and health education teacher at West Rocks Middle School. In 1986, she became the guidance counselor at the Norwalk High School, a position she held for 3 years. From 1989 to 1991, she worked in the central office position as health education coordinator of the Norwalk Public Schools. That led to a year stint as supervisor, health, PE, and athletics. She missed working directly with students, and for the next 6 years, she was a housemaster at Norwalk High School. Beginning in 1998, she became principal of Jonathan Law High School in Milford. She served 7 years in this position and another 2 years as principal of Newtown High School. We stole her away from Newtown in 2007, naming her assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. As Board of Education members who have had the pleasure of working with Arlene, we are well aware of her commitment to young people and improving student learning. She's worked skillfully and enthusiastically with teachers, administration, parents, and students. During the past 4 years, she has played a major role in the development and implementation of the Wilton Public Schools Strategic Plan and has led many other important initiatives in curriculum, instruction, professional development. She's been a valued member of the administration leadership team and will be greatly missed. We wish her the very best as she transitions to a new chapter in her life. She lives in the Sound in Milford and absolutely loves the water. How appropriate that the book Oceans, The Last Wilderness Revealed will be given in your name to the library. Thank you. Before you tonight. Tonight. Thank you. Sheila Henry.
Sheila?
My glasses. Or
doesn't get rid.
How do you feel?
Hi.
Didn't write that paper yet for you or not?
Ben wrote many papers, and they're all graded.
Sheila Henry began her career teaching English at Wilton High School on September 17, 1985. She not only has served her students well, but also her colleagues, serving twice as instructional leader of the English department from 1994 to 1998 and from 2002 to 2006, during which time she worked tirelessly fighting for what would be best for the department and our students. She was also a faculty mentor for 7 years between 2003 and 2011, bringing a personal warmth, respect, and support to many students' lives. For Sheila, teaching has been not only a career, but a calling. For her students, she has not only been a teacher, but a force of nature to be reckoned with. The tallest football players have admitted to cowering before her outrage, irresponsibility, immaturity, or intolerance. She will simply not allow her students to diminish others by sexist or homophobic or belittling remarks. Sheila is a passionate teacher who shares with her students that things matter. Literature matters. That beautiful speech of Hamlet's or the sad final passage of The Lord of the Flies can open your eyes to truth and to beauty and change your soul forever. And words matter. The way you express yourself and string words into sentences and sentences into paragraphs can mean the difference between effective communication and the blarney. And last but not least, people matter. The way you relate to other human beings, in the end, defines what kind of human being you are. We salute you, Sheila Henry, for a lifetime of dedicated and excellent teaching, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. May she enjoy time for her many loves, including reading, writing, gardening, and her husband, Richard. We will miss you terribly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Barbara Klein. Recognition of Barbara Klein's teaching career. Barbara Klein originally hails from Ohio and proudly asserts her continued support for the Buckeyes to this very day.
Just a little shame right now.
I feel your pain.
It's true.
Barbara has always been a teacher of high standards, demanding that her students learn the grammar and usage required for their success as writers and as test takers of the SAT and AP tests. She has worked tirelessly with students, meeting with them one-on-one during her planning periods, before school and after school, to help them become more effective writers. Barbara's teaching is founded on a passion for good literature and good writing. Her favorite courses here at Wilton High School have been selected World Lit, English Novel, and Expository Writing and Grammar. No student who has had Barb will ever forget the enthusiasm she brings to the classroom, her love of the great novelists she teaches, and the way she can make issues of 19th century literature relevant to her 21st century students' lives. She has the ability to get students revved up about research, evidenced by their exciting presentations on the Victorian wedding, an authentic English tea, or crime and punishment. She has planned countless field trips to professional theater productions and to various museums, such as the Yale British Museum of Art. She has laughed with her students, applauded their triumphs, and sympathized when they needed support. She has taught them that there is no excuse for being late first period on a snow day. They give you 2 extra hours to clean off your car and allow for poor road conditions not to sleep in. We are grateful for all that Barbara Klein has given us as a dedicated educator and teacher of English, and we wish her the best in her retirement. May she enjoy her many loves: reading, writing, cooking, traveling, attending theater, and going to museums, as well as her lovely daughters and her husband, John. We hope she knows how much she will be missed. And I need to add personally that Barbara, 3 years ago, I can't believe it was 3 years ago when A Better Chance opened the Girls' House, stepped forward with 3 of her English teacher friends to become mentors for those young women and made the program the success that it has been.
It's been delightful.
It's hard to believe those girls are now finishing their junior year, and Barb has been an outstanding mentor, and I thank you for that. We have a book for you, or not for you, but you can touch it. And thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, is Mike Plude, is Mike here? Or,
No.
okay. I'll read that from here. Mike Plude has lived out with great distinction the creed of Middlebrook School, to make a positive difference in the lives of others. Mike has spent 38 years in his life influencing in profoundly positive ways the lives of those fortunate enough to have been his student or to have been a colleague of his. Mike possesses the rare ability to balance open-mindedness with passionate devotion, and with this quality of character, Mike has been able to captain Middlebrook's math department through the transition from a junior high school to an all-teen middle school. During Mike's 20-year tenure at Middlebrook's math department, instructional leader Middlebrook students have scored in the top of their DRG each year, the Connecticut Mastery Tests, and have repeatedly won national mathematics competitions. Mike brought the Chicago Math Program and the Transition Math course to Middlebrook, transforming mathematics instruction at Middlebrook School. And all the while, Mike was a guiding force in engaging the math department in Middlebrook's movement into academic teams, curriculum-based field trips, and interdisciplinary units of study. In 2004, Mike was the recipient of the Edith May Sliff Award for Distinguished Mathematics Teaching, a national award presented by the Mathematics Association of America to a select few teachers who, by dedication to their students, have brought recognition and honor to their school and their profession. During his tenure with the Wilton Public Schools, Mike has reached eagerly beyond the classroom. He has served the Wilton community of learners as best mentor and as intramurals coach, and for 25 years as the advisor of Middlebrook's Yearbook Club. By retiring this year, Mike will be able to demonstrate even more frequently his prowess with the home repair and improvement projects. Will be able to follow even more closely his beloved New York Mets, and will be able to tend even more diligently to the flourishing vegetable garden he grows each year. Still, we know what will be most sweet and satisfying for Mike is that now he will be able to give his attention even more completely to what he loves most of all, and that is spending time with his lovely wife and daughters. May your days be long and peaceful, Mike, and may the travels that await you now be filled with wonder and joy. We are so grateful for Mike's service. And we will be donating a book called the New York Mets, 50 Amazing Seasons, to the library. Mike will receive their certificate as well.
Or 2 good seasons and 48 disappointing.
A faithful teacher. Susie Reed joined Wilton Miller School when gasoline cost 32 cents a gallon. The Beatles were singing "All You Need Is Love." I had just barely been born. Our president was known best by his initials, LBJ. Television taught us to "I Love Lucy," and Walter Cronkite was expounding on the tragic conflict in Southeast Asia. Susie brought her teaching skills to Miller School 44 years ago and applied those talents to the numerous students who would follow their educational journey in her classroom. I'm fortunate that one of my children had her as a teacher just recently, and I can tell you she was fantastic. There are a few constants in life. Everything seems to change almost on a daily basis, be it the price of gasoline, the music we play, the television we watch, the state of our politics, our heroes, and our villains. Perhaps the one thing that is never ending is the need in education where our teachers have to be innovative, understanding, enthusiastic, and compassionate to the needs of their students. Susie has been keeping faith with those principles we believed in then and we believe in now. She has taught Wilton students through 8 presidential administrations. For 4.5 decades, in economic boom and bust, Susie Reed has remained at her post as a touchstone for our core values, educating the children of Wilton. It is now time for Susie to pursue her love of nature and gardening, and with her Maine Coon cats, enjoy many happy and healthy years of her retirement in the Pine Tree State of Maine. We're going to miss Susie and thank her for all of those years. We have 2 books that we're dedicating to the library in her name: A Pet for Petunia and Polka Dot Penguin Pottery.
Say that every time.
Sandra here tonight? No. Unfortunately, Sandra Breland is not here tonight. Sandra's gracious greeting to everyone will be missed by all her colleagues at Miller Driscoll School. First-time visitors were always appreciative of her warmth and friendliness. Every day was a gift to Sandra, as she always replied wonderful to every query. With her professional appearance, it was plain to see that she modeled at one time for Neiman Marcus. Sandra often softened the busy atmosphere of the early elementary school with her kind and gracious manner. Sandra was one of the members of the Orham's Early Morning Breakfast Club, and her loyal group of friends will always miss her, and so will we. And we're donating 2 books in her memory. One is Tallulah's Tutu and Camellia. She'll be missed.
she's here. Charmaine Hazard? Okay. Charmaine has been an essential part of academic lab at the high school. With her calm exterior and organizational skills, she was able to affect change in many students. Students still return from college to see her, and some seniors have asked that she come back at the end of this year so that they can say goodbye to her personally. Charmaine would do anything that you asked and always went a few steps beyond. Neat to a fault and concerned about hygiene. She was always spraying some disinfectant on computer keys or desks, causing many students to run for cover. And she is also an instructor in Feng Shui. So we will be presenting to the high school library, Stressed Out in School, Learning to Deal with Academic Pressure in her honor. Caroline Jopling, I don't think she's here. Caroline Jopling served the Wilton schools for 12 years. She started as the Secretary for Continuing Education. After leaving to raise a family, she returned to the Wilton Public Schools as the original Secretary for the District Technology Office. Her knowledge, organization, and commitment were a tremendous asset to the department and the Wilton schools. As one of the original technology staff members, Caroline played an important role in the development of all phases of our technology program. She assisted in all areas of technology, including the laying out of our fiber network, our original data mining efforts, disaster and pandemic planning, and in the creation and maintenance of our software and hardware inventories. Her meticulous efforts and documentation have made the office more efficient. In addition, her relationship with vendors and the understanding of state contract pricing saved our district thousands of dollars. We were blessed to have her as an employee and wish her all the best in her retirement. And we will be presenting to the high school library Women's Rights, People and Perspectives in her honor.
Cecilia? Please. Nurse Cecilia. Nurse Cecilia is going to be missed at Cider Mill. You've been with the Cider Mill family for the past 12 years. During that time, you carefully and lovingly assisted the care of 90 to 100 third, fourth, or fifth grade students per day. Scrapes, headaches, stomach aches, and even broken bones have always been addressed immediately by Cecilia. Today, with children having many additional medical needs, you were always right there to assist with the expert decision-making, often on the spot. You always remained calm and collected and definitely helped ease the parent anxiety during an emergency. As technology advanced at Cider Mill for the students and staff, it also came on board for our health office. You and your teammates were quickly up and running, managing student information with the new software program SNAP, which was provided for our entire district health office. Before coming to Cider Mill, you worked in the home care and same-day surgery care. You've been a volunteer for the Bedford Women's Correctional Facility and at Roar, an animal rescue shelter. Cecilia, you and your husband are proud parents of a daughter who received her master's in teaching and another one who has her BA in journalism. No nurses.
No nurses. No, weren't interested. Absolutely not.
We also have seen your work. We also understand that you've received your BA the same year your daughter received her degree. That's terrific.
Yes.
That is terrific. A lot of work. We also heard most recently that you had the honor of being the proud mother of a bride. Mm-hmm. This helps us understand a little better why you need your own time. We all wish you well in the next journey as your life begins. Cecilia, it is now time to enjoy your retirement. All the best in new relaxing life. Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be providing The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And I just have, is this the, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. What we'll now do is take a short break for reception, and then we'll come back. So please have some refreshments. Yeah, they are. Someone said they may be suspects. I was thinking, oh God. She's over-caffeinated. She's just going crazy. Jeez, yeah. Not getting points, not getting across very well at all. So much stuff. We could do that.
You better do a motion for just so that Sandy don't.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to reports and recognition. But before that, we would someone like to make a motion to modify the agenda.
I move that we modify the agenda to put the item 5B, Board of Education Town Self-Funded Insurance Agreement, discuss and approve, to put that up ahead first on the agenda.
Before the strategic plan.
Before strategic plan.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on to the board chair's report, and tonight I do not have a report, so now we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
I have a very brief one, 2 items. As the board knows, we co-sponsor an alternatives evening school with the Westport Public Schools that serves approximately 20 students each year, give or take. Some years it's fewer and some years it's a little more, but usually from 16 to 20 students during the year. Classes are held 4 nights a week at Middlebrook and are taught by teachers who are largely from the Wilton and Westport public school systems. The program is directed by Jamie Coleman, who's a Darien special educator, and also is assisted as co-director by Linda Siliberti, who's a Wilton High School instructor. Students who enroll in this program are generally experiencing difficulties in the mainstream program, and they opt to this program that allows them to work during the day and attend school in the evening. This year, Tim Canty and Ken Post and I attended their end of the year ceremony, which was held this past Tuesday. And each year, there's an informal supper for the parents and the students, and there's a speech given by a student who's selected, a graduating student. And then what's very nice is that each of the teachers say something about the students in the program. The student who spoke this year, Taylor Thomas, is a Wilton High School student. She commented on how the program had helped her grow as a student and as a person. And one of the teachers who spoke talked about the mission of the school as he sees it, and it's to help young people build bridges to their future. And as he said, some of these young people who've struggled burn their bridges, and then the teachers and staff try to help them rebuild bridges again. And I thought that was really a nice metaphor to talk about programs that are designed to help youngsters succeed. Each year, one of the things I find very satisfying and rewarding about this program is that parents will come up to the teachers or the administrators and talk about how this program has really helped their young person and help them move on with their lives, and really has been a transformational kind of experience. So I wanted to congratulate these kids who are graduating this year from this program, and to salute the staff and the parents who supported them as they went forward. I'll pass around if you would like to see the program from the evening. It was really a very inspirational night for us all. Second item, is Tim reported to me that Wilton High School senior Ben Markey has been named as one of the state winners of the National Association of Secondary School Principals Herff Jones Principals Leadership Award. This is a national award. I believe there are 300 kids in the country who receive it, so it's a very prestigious award. Ben, who will be attending the University of Pennsylvania in the fall, will receive a $1,000 scholarship. So we'd like to publicly congratulate Ben on this most recent achievement.
Thank you very much. Are there any committee reports this evening?
I have one.
Yes.
Just wanted to comment that the PTA concluded their year, has had a turnover in their officership, and I think it's appropriate to mention them that they do many things. We often see them supporting different positions and encouraging parents to come out and vote for the budget, but the amount of work they do in support of each child in each school is truly mind-boggling, and it's been my great privilege to be the representative to their board meetings.
Good. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the self-funded insurance.
We came before you, I assume everybody knows Sandy Denny's, the town's chief financial officer, and Ed Norgard, our longtime insurance advisor. We came before you a while back, several months ago, to pitch the idea of combining with the town on the self-funded insurance program. And we've sent you the document, the agreement document that we started with a document that was actually between two towns in a regional school district. Ed Norgard put a lot of time with input from me and from Sandy to create this document between the town and the Board of Ed. It was reviewed by town council, who made a few changes to it, and it was also reviewed by town council, who made no changes to it. So we brought this before you to review. And for the benefit of anybody who hasn't, who might be listening or is not familiar with this, I'm going to walk through the main highlights of the agreement and of our plan to move forward, and then we'll take any questions from the board. So this cooperative agreement spells out the following guidelines on how we will operate our plan and our reserve fund. Effective July 1st, 2011, the Board of Education's reserve fund will become the combined reserve fund for the town and Board of Ed. Also effective July 1st, 2011, the town's health benefit plan will join the Board of Ed's plan in a self-funded arrangement. The town's health benefit expenses will now be based on the actual cost of claims rather than the premiums paid to an insurance company. Each year, the town and Board of Ed will budget for our expected claims and fees based on the renewal calculations of the plan administrator, which is currently Anthem. Each year, the town and Board of Ed will increase or decrease our budgets to properly fund the combined reserve account. And the funding level will be for the reserve will be based on each entity's expected claims as a percent of the total claims. For example, if the Board of Ed's expected claims are 80% of the combined total, then the Board of Ed would contribute 80% of the total needed to properly fund the reserve. Additionally, during the first several years, the town will contribute extra funding to the build up their portion of the reserve account, so it's proportional with what we already have in the account. During this initial period, while they're trying to build their reserve up, the town will have access to the Board of Ed's reserve account if they experience claims in excess of what's budgeted. If during the year the town or the Board of Ed experience an unexpected increase in claims that causes us to exceed our budget, they are entitled to draw down on the reserve account to cover the shortfall. In the next fiscal year, both the Board of Ed and town would contribute, as described before, to restore the reserve account. In the event of termination of this agreement, the funds in the reserve account would be returned to the town and Board of Ed based on the ratio of their expected claims in the last fiscal year. So that's all the same as what we presented a couple of months ago, and that's all outlined in a few more words in this document.
The agreement definitely gives both the Board of Education and the town the benefit of belonging to a larger group, so that we share equally in the pain. If we have excess claims, we share equally in the rewards if we have a good year for health claims. And I think that the agreement that we've worked out is fair to both the town and the Board of Ed. We'll be contributing about an additional $900,000 to $1 million for the reserve through the first 5 years of the arrangement. But I think that for the arrangement, it definitely is fair to both sides. And we presented this to the Board of Selectmen, and they'll be voting on it at their meeting on June 20th.
Right. Once the town reaches their proportional amount of reserve, we really just treat it as combined going forward. We'll still budget based on our own group's expected claims, but as far as reserves and risk and reward, everything will be combined going forward.
And it's a natural. The town of Wilton, it's very natural that they have under the same arrangement. And it's especially important to raise the number of covered people under a self-insured plan.
Yeah, we'll set up one internal service fund. We'll set up one reserve. So it will essentially be one organization that manages their claims, even though we will be receiving reports that tells us individually how we are doing and then collectively how we are doing.
So those accounts will be independent accounts. They won't be run through either the town's books or the Board of Ed's books?
It will be segregated from the general fund. It will be a separate internal service fund outside of general fund accounting.
We will still record our own expenditures. The board's employees' claims will still be reported as board expenditures, and the town's claims, but it'll be one bank account where we will be putting all of our funding into.
Ken, as I recall, the reserves, so one of them has a range. At least one of them has a range,
yes.
Correct? Who's going to determine at what range we will fund it going forward each year? Is that just by mutual consent?
It's going to be within the same range. Part of this agreement is that the town agrees that we will go by the same.
I understand that, but in a given year we might choose to fund it at 80%. Another given year we might choose to fund it at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were going to make any increase or decrease, we would make a recommendation to both boards.
Right.
If it were to change. If it were to change.
Well, it does change. It's discretionary. It's discretionary. The way it works currently, it's discretionary on our part.
The corridor reserve is supposed to be between 65 and 85% funded.
Right.
It's currently about 76% funded right now.
Correct.
So if we were to decide, if we were to have a surplus at the end of the year and wanted to increase up to the 85%, we would make a recommendation to both boards to do that.
And it may be appropriate since they haven't yet, of course, reached the objective, their share of the reserve. So
it should be rising.
Yeah.
And what's Ed's role under this agreement?
The same is, in effect, the same from the standpoint of the reports, the monthly reports and the quarterly reports and such will continue, but we'll have two sets. We'll have one for the town and one for the Board of Ed, except the reserve would be separate calculations. And also will show each month the projection, based on a formula, the projection of expected claims for the current year and for the next year. And that will be done the same way that we're doing it now.
So
separately, but then combined together to see what the total is.
Right. Right. And the Board of Selectmen is also considering an additional contract with Mr. Norgard at their June 20th meeting, so that he will be paid for those services to the town.
That'd be nice. Added this time.
Should we put that in the motion? Or
We should.
Is the claims experience for the Board of Education and for the town similar, if you look back over the years? For
Yeah, there'll be fluctuations in both organizations. Different plans, too.
Year to year with the Board of Ed isn't similar to any other year,
Yeah.
much less compared
Right.
to another entity.
Well, we do look at it on an actuarial basis.
Like last year, we had 2 claims that were just outrageous, that really could skew how you look at it. So, but
We're bringing you on board?
Well, you've had some unusual years too. But
We sure did.
That wasn't last year.
And there will be some savings to the town in this.
Absolutely.
This is really another example of trying to restructure some things to
Right.
bring about savings.
Absolutely.
The taxpayers like that.
what do you think that? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, this year we were able to make adjustments to our reserve to affect our budget. What happens in the future?
We didn't make adjustments to our reserve to affect the budget. The budget came down because the claims projection for next year is lower because of our lower experience this year.
Right.
The reserve hasn't been touched
So
either way.
that would still be possible in the future?
Yes.
Yes.
But we still use the rolling 12 months.
Thank you.
Can I just have one question? Has this changed materially at all since it was presented to us last time?
No, the only thing that's different is that we have all the, 10 pages of words instead of our little summary, but the concept is exactly the same.
So
It has not
nothing
changed.
material since we
Yeah.
spoke last?
No.
Right.
And the purpose of tonight really is to show you the formal document so that we can move forward with
And-
that.
and
But
Anthem-
conceptually, nothing has changed.
And Anthem will administer.
The whole thing.
Yes.
In theory, is it possible for us to have different administrators, or would we always have?
No, we could
always have the
change.
same.
We can
Yes.
certainly change.
We could change, but it would be the same administrator. In every case, so we would change for both.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would make more sense. We have a little, even though it's not a huge group, but we have a little more buying power with 2 groups instead of just one.
Can I make a motion that we approve?
I have a,
Yeah.
I have a question. It's a language question. It's on page 2. It's on the first sentence in the second whereas. You speak about an initial combined reserve objective, but I don't find that defined anywhere. I assume that that's the 900,000 to $1 million that Sandy was talking about.
Yes, and that actually is going to be a moving target every year until they get up to it, because it's always going to be based on the formula that the Board of Ed adopted in 2005, and it'll always be based on whatever their current expected claims are. So we'll have an IBNR portion, a corridor portion, and fluctuation portion. So they'll contribute what they can, like $200,000 a year or so every year, and a few years in, we'll do the math again and see at the current level of claims what they need to be proportional to us.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so that we specifically did not put a number in here.
Okay.
And we've even included as an exhibit to the agreement that how that's calculated.
Right. That I understand.
Yeah.
A question is, David, thank you very much for putting this together, and to Gary's point, it's great to save the town a couple of dollars. I'd just like to encourage and throw out that, hopefully this is the first and not the last, and also that, as we go into discussions next year, that we see how we can enter into other cooperative agreements, maybe with our neighboring towns or our neighboring districts, because we're not all that different, that we're learning.
Well, and I'll point out, it's not the first time that we work together with the town, certainly. But I agree, we want to continue doing that.
Sincerely, Ken and I, as much as we poke jabs at each other, have a wonderful working relationship, and we are working together on a number of other initiatives that will be cost savings to the entire town when we go to budget.
That's fantastic.
Terrific. Yes. Terrific.
My motion's still out there.
Second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work.
Thank you.
the strategic plan.
We can't go right to the calendar?
Can't wait.
Who's a cackle? Who's a cackle in the audience?
We're bringing up the whole school system. Sit at the table.
In addition, while they're getting seated, in addition to our terrific administrative staff and our special education administrators as well, we're joined tonight by some members of the Parent Advisory Board, Special Ed Parent Advisory Board. And you've heard Ann Paul, who sadly is attending to family matters in Philadelphia, but you've heard Ann speak to the board about the council and the discussion and the creative thinking that she has received from the Parent Advisory Group, and she really has enjoyed working, meeting, I believe monthly, with this group, and so we're really pleased to see them here tonight to share and as we report on the work of the strategic plan, and in addition to the strategic plan initiatives, the special education, special services area put together a very complete report that kind of summarizes a lot of the initiatives and achievements in special services this year. So we're so pleased that you could all join us tonight as parents and to have our staff.
Let me just share with you how we're going to run through the process. We'll start with the curriculum and instruction strand of the strategic plan, starting with K2, 3-5, middle school, high school, district. Then we'll go into the academic and social emotional, same format, and then we'll end with the special services report. So, Cheryl, curriculum and instruction. We start with curriculum and instruction.
The second one.
I understand that, but
I'm just
wrong
joking.
thing.
Please. Just joking.
It's not alphabetical.
I was looking at it. I put the wrong thing on it, so I thought I read the wrong
It's
thing.
been that kind of day. Yeah.
It has been that kind of day, exactly. No, I
got it.
haven't. It's just, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
Anyway, I'm set. Under curriculum instruction, we just selected a few things to highlight from the strategic plan and some of the goals that we've made progress on throughout this year. One of them has been working in tandem with the district, but also specifically at the building level, is improving our the RTI process and including where we're going with the data collection that will be electronic. And so we've talked a lot about that throughout the year. But one of the things that we had to do was come up and agree on some benchmark goals, and so that's one of the things that was interesting and good to have accomplished, so we did that. Another thing is that we've developed the timeline for the RTI studios so that it will be well in place. The staff is very well aware that we have this. It's going. We also, throughout the school year, continued with our early intervention program with the eye towards the fact that we're going to this electronic process. The other thing that we're very excited about is with our smart boards, with our data teams, we can now, instead of laying out all the papers on the table and following each of the children's progress for each team, we meet once a month with our building data team. And now, instead of laying everything out on the table, we're looking forward, and we've already started with the demo that we had, is putting it on the smart board. So each team, when they meet monthly in their team, can put it up in the smart board and actually track the data. And then as a building data team, we can do that monthly as well. It's just a very efficient, but it's not even just efficient, it's just a much better picture and a visual. So that's an exciting thing, and we're well on our way to that. We haven't had the training at all, but our reading team has done some of the training. They have learned how to input some of the information, and we're starting with some of it with our June 22nd workshop, and then we'll be continuing into it in August. And every building, I'm sure, has this as one of their things with Arlene's leadership of where this has gone. And then the last thing that I was going to mention under the area of curriculum instruction was
the tri-state work that we had the tri-state visit last year. So in preparation for the tri-state visit for the 2012 at the end of next year, one of the recommendations was working with the transition and the K-5 team and working on our vertical articulation in terms of what we're doing as teams. So we've already begun work on that. I noticed when I look at Jenny's report that she has, and I thought, oh, good, she has that because we did do that. And so we've begun those meetings, and we've begun the process of working through joining together our teams, because that is always a challenge when you have a few more transition periods in a school district where you have, a K2 that's not an automatic transition time. So those are the highlights under curriculum instruction.
Thank you. I can just say ditto on most of them, because if you look at what I've written for Cider Mill, you'll find almost every single one of the things that Cheryl has mentioned that we are doing, and we didn't talk to each other before we wrote these.
No, I quickly read it.
So it has been, a busy year. The work that we've been doing with under Arlene's leadership was the RTI studio for the data collection to get things so that we can have that visual. Our reading specialists and language arts teachers have already been trained on that. They're already starting to input things in. We have had some training with our leadership team on it. We also are having additional training on the June 22nd day, and then we're going to be doing it on a regular schedule next year so that everybody is up and running. But it is amazing how you can just put everything up and disaggregate, etc., be able to get any of that information that you want. In fact, we're hoping that some of the year-end testing that has been done with the Gates reading test and the ERBs, etc., when that comes in, we'll be able to import that in through PowerSchool, and the teachers are really looking forward to be able to have that at a glance in September. And that's one of the things that we'll be making sure that they have the training for, so that they have a profile of their new students when they come in next year without having to go through, as Cheryl said, all the piles of paper that you do, going to each folder, pulling each one out. So this is going to be something that is really going to be extremely useful and give back some time to teachers to do other things instead of going through those papers. Our Language Arts Committee has also already begun preparation for the Tri-State Revisit that's coming up next May, and working very carefully on that. And with smart boards, we've been using them just every way we can lately, and especially now, all the smart boards for third grades. Thank you to WEF and PTA. All our third grades will have those smart boards in, and they are going to be doing real concentrated training on that. We've already started doing it in-house, and we have the luxury of somebody coming for us because of the amount we bought. I guess they're coming in to do some extra training with us. So we're preparing for some differentiated instruction for our staff as well, because we do have staff at different levels on that. So they'll be doing that in June and be up and ready, because we know all those second graders that are coming up have already had them in all their rooms. So this is a great continuum for them. Curriculum mapping, we've been continuing with. RILs participated in the development under Arlene again in the 21st Century Skills, which will be used also when we start up our study groups again for next year. We're going to weave many of those in because it is in the strategic plan, so we do want to make sure that we have that woven in. We've started some preparation for that already.
Following right along with the data teamwork, again, that's been through Arlene's leadership. The assistant principals, I think, at each of the schools have been instrumental in the work in the development of our TI studio, and we are now previewing it. But in addition to having data inputted, we're trying to look, our language arts scores, we have a lot of data, but this year we decided we needed to look more carefully at the math curriculum. So the math department developed universal screenings to administer to 6th and 7th graders 3 times a year, and they're in the process of developing benchmarks based upon the results of those screening. And you'll be happy to know that they've looked at math computation, application, and fluency, which are the 3 areas that we need to use if we are making recommendations to the pupil study for students' specific weaknesses in the math worksheet for the special ed. And to continue with that work, as you can see, a lot of the summer curriculum that we listed, now that we have the screenings, we're looking for common assessments in math that will go across each of the grade levels. And again, that data will be put into RTI Studio, specific data. And the language arts return visit, again, is on everyone's radar.
Mm-hmm.
And the transition piece, we had one of our 8th grade teachers went up and took a course in humanities recently and brought back valuable information. And now some of the high school teachers, Jim Sheridan's coming down to visit Middlebrook to see what 8th graders are like at the end of the year. We often wonder what happens in the summer between 8th grade and high school, how they grow so much to be ready for the humanities. But I think we're all, again, ditto, ditto, ditto on what's going on.
At the high school, in the area of curriculum instruction, the building-based study groups followed up on our prioritization of looking at those courses that most students take, in other words, multiple teachers, in looking at curriculum mapping and having a laser-like focus on developing shared instructional experiences and common assessments. So if you look at courses like U.S. History in the sophomore year, where you can have as many as 4 or 5 teachers, or physical science in grade 10, etc. So you're seeing the evolution of these course-based teams that are using a clinical approach to make sure that there's greater commonality of experience across courses, which I think is very responsive not only to the strategic plan, but also to an EAS recommendation around, well, they use the phrase autonomy run amok at Wilton High School. So this has been important work for us. I must say that it's demanding work. It's very difficult to find that balance between autonomy, creativity, and on the other hand, making sure that there's an integrity in a transcript grade at the end of the day, so you minimize the idea that it doesn't matter who you have. So this has been important work for us, and the curriculum mapping tool, I think, is providing the foundation to make this happen. You know, we're done with that work now in social studies and science. And we're really getting now into the next phase, which is where this dynamic can create a working tool for teachers to monitor how they're progressing. They can update routinely on various instructional strategies or types of supplemental materials or assessments that can be helpful. So this is good. There's also an accountability layer, because we can actually look at the maps and say to teachers, well, where are you? And how's it going? And those kinds of things. So that's been useful. I think the other struggle for us at the high school, which may be a bit different than the K-8 experience in terms of data teamwork, is just the departmental structure of our school. You know, and trying to get across the school and trying to identify students through our student assistance team model, those students who may be presenting with academic issues. We're trying to identify very objective measures that can red flag students who need support. And then, of course, it's one thing to be able to do that. It's another thing to then define interventions with a wide range of faculty members who consider themselves as content area specialists, and in fact really have to get in then and differentiate and create multiple types of instructional experiences for students so that they can be helped at that general classroom level. And then we're running into resource issues at the next phase. You may recall that I was so strongly adamant about the need for this additional reading teacher at the high school, which didn't make it through the budget process. That was a grant-supported position this year. That position has been instrumental in providing support for students who need help, and now we're going to have to come up with Plan B on that here in the coming weeks. So the news isn't as good at the high school as it relates to the kind of work that's going on, I think, K-8 around the issue of data teamwork and shared instructional experience. I just think it's a tougher nut to crack, but we'll get there eventually. And then ditto on the tri-state work.
At the district level, just in support of what Tim said, it is more difficult. Let me jump to the data team and RTI Studio. It is more difficult at the high school level, not just in Wilton, but across the state and nationally. The RTI or SRBI initiative is well ahead at the K-5 level. At the secondary level, it's more difficult to come up with a way to manage the whole process. With that said, though, we are moving forward. Our K through 5 assistant principals will meet with Alan Chinoy, who many of you met when you looked at the RTI studio. There's going to be a user group meeting amongst the school districts that are working with him. And so the K-5 will be meeting in Greenwich on June 20th. We just had the meeting yesterday, and I suggested, and this is Tim doesn't know this yet, but he'll hear it right now, that Wilton is going to host, because it is difficult, Wilton is going to host the meeting for the secondary schools so that these school districts can come together and talk about the challenges. So that I think is a good thing, and our assistant principals jumped on that. So Alan, we will facilitate that. Wilton will facilitate that, and Alan is sponsoring it here in Wilton. Let's talk about curriculum mapping. Even though the pace slowed due to some budget reductions, we continue to move forward. Social studies is completely done with the basic map. When I wrote this, I said we're hoping that science will be done, but science will be done this summer. Music will be done this summer, which was not initially going to happen. K-8 phys ed, some English and some math at the high school level, because the electives do not have to have that K through 12 articulation. So we are continuing that initiative, and it's still moving forward. And lastly, I wanted to, actually, the curriculum review calendar, and Karen, you asked about that a couple of years ago, whether there's a review cycle, and we had a subcommittee of the CCC, so the review calendar, and Tim was part of that also. We do have a review calendar with protocols in place, and it's a 5-year cycle, and we're out to 2019, 2020 with identified reviews. So I think it was good work with some subcommittee members of the CCC Council. And I want to stress also that we are going to see some alignment with curriculum mapping and RTI Studio. I've been in discussion with Alan, and he is really excited about, he wanted to see it, the Rubicon Atlas template and work that we're doing with curriculum mapping, and he's going to work with the district to align what RTI Studio does and Rubicon Atlas does to analyze the gaps and see whether we do have gaps in our test when we look at our scores, our assessments. So that's coming, which no other district is doing. So we're pretty excited about that. He needs to work on that, but we did show him curriculum mapping. He's never seen it before, so he says their company can look at it and align our work. So we don't have separate initiatives. We have initiatives that are working together. So that was good news. And that's. Do we want to take questions on curriculum and instruction and then move on to academic and social, if there are any?
Sure. Keep going.
Keep going?
Oh, you have questions? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. There have been a couple of references to budgetary constraints slowing down the work.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just give us some examples of where that's occurring and what the result of the exact result of it is?
Well, I think the summer work, that's when we do most of our curriculum mapping. We did not have as many days to give to people last year and this year, but we have stolen some during April vacation. That's where we built up some momentum. But we do need to have a number of staff members. We couldn't have all staff members, so we had to limit to representatives working on the map. And that's where the budget constraint is, the amount of staff members that we can use. So rather than have, let's say, everybody in ninth grade English work on the map, we have representatives. And it's better to have all staff there.
Okay, so
That's
it's a
one piece.
participation.
Participation.
I think from my perspective, not to sound like a broken record, but a budget restraint in the area of SRBI is not having enough social workers or mental health professionals, because one of the most difficult areas, it's easy, well, not easy necessarily, but you can construct a universal screening for math. It's math problems. You can look at reading, you can look at passages, you can look at comprehension, you can look at decoding and fluency. But when you're looking at student behavior, and you have 3 counselors in a building with 1,040 children, and you have a 0.7 social worker, it's hard to look that carefully at behaviors of individual students, and it's never the same behavior, obviously. We all know from having our own children. And so you have to identify the behaviors of concern, then come up with interventions, and you can't use a simple menu. And that kind of work, we're doing the best we can, but I think without the staffing for that, and also for math interventions, it's difficult. We're going to do our best, but it still is a budgetary concern from my perspective.
I think the math piece, though, is not only the social piece, but the math piece is where we're lacking. We do not have the staff to, as we have reading specialists work with small groups, we don't have math interventionists under SRBI. To work with the tier 2 and tier 3, which are the 1 to 8 and 1 to 1 or 1 to 3. So that's where we're struggling, and that we would have asked for some staffing for that.
Okay, just broad scale order of magnitude. I mean, how many FTEs are we talking about? I mean, and you may not be able to answer that, but
well, I can at the high school. We need this literacy component in place. I would support completely Julia's concern around the support personnel on the social emotional side. I couldn't give you an FTE allocation on that regard, but unlike perhaps the K-8 environment, I'm going to hit this home again. Just to really be concrete and objective about this, you have students at the high school who are on the cusp of identification, 504 or special education, who need help that goes outside the general classroom, that goes outside what their assigned English or math teacher can provide. And the inability to provide a fully funded, dynamic reading support program in our high school is a 1.0 FTE need that we tried to get through the budget last year. It's absolutely essential that we try to figure out how to make that happen.
Okay. And similar in math? Or?
Yes.
Not
at the lower level.
Not at the high school.
Not so much
at
at the high
math.
school.
I feel because we're homogeneously, it tends to be more ability group, and kids are placed in a way that are less heterogeneous. There's a less of a heterogeneous grouping environment. Typically, the general classroom teacher can provide the support necessary. It's more literacy need.
Okay.
Math,
okay,
on the reading and writing side, right?
The K-5 is where the math specialist, possibly the K-8. Yeah.
We have an intern next year that will help. Fortunately, she's a math intern. We don't know.
How would you have answered Tim's question from an FTE perspective?
For support staff, at least an additional support staff to focus, to be an interventionist, to work on those cases that we're looking at in particular. And for math, if we didn't have the intern, I would say a 0.5 would be able to do that and pull small groups of children based upon their schedule.
Are there individuals handling those activities that aren't necessarily well trained for those activities?
Oh no, all our staff is well trained. They just.
I mean, and specifically in the area of social work for those situations where you just don't have a person.
Are you saying? You're saying are they not getting the service at all?
They're getting
or getting it from.
They're getting the services to the best of our ability, but every day there are new services needed.
I find that, as we talked about in our earlier budget deliberations, we're in more of a reactive mode when we really could be providing more proactive interventions that would help on the reactive side. And that's where the triage comes in.
All the time.
Right.
Any questions?
Academic and social emotional, you too?
Yes. Before I talked about a little bit about the transition from second to third grade, and so in the academic and social and emotional needs is one of the areas we look at incoming kindergarten because it's a large group of children. So we've tried to double up our efforts in how do we provide the best transition for kindergartners coming into kindergarten, realizing that it's a big group of children, and with the reorganization, we just want to make sure that we have that small personalized environment for the children as well. So this year we added some components that we haven't had. They seem to be well received. We added where we had some of the questions we've had over the years are the community preschools are what do you do in kindergarten? How has kindergarten changed over the years? Kindergarten has changed dramatically over, I've been here 11 years, it's changed dramatically because other grades have changed. So of course kindergarten is going to change as well. And so so we invited all the preschool directors to come in and visit, and our kindergarten teachers all did a short presentation about what do we do in kindergarten, not where we're expecting them to do things in preschool, but so that they have a better knowledge of what we're doing. The other thing is we, in order to meet some of the needs a little bit more of the population of children coming out of our preschool, particularly the special needs population, we also invited parents to come and meet our staff, representative staff in the special ed department, so we could have a smaller, easier environment. So they could meet us before they met us over the table at a PPT, for instance, and see who we were, and it was just more of a casual, more informal meeting. So we did not have a lot of people, but the ones that came were it was well received. We've done orientation sessions for the parent and for the child over the past numbers of years, and this year we continue doing that, but we redid it a bit where we had 3 of the sessions were for incoming parents that had never had a child in the school, and 3 of the sessions were for more the parents that are more the veteran parents that they've had at least one child come to the building because they have different kinds of needs. So we tried to manage it as much as a workshop for parents as well. And then we redid our kindergarten handbook, so it was a little more user-friendly, so parents got it now, and so it was more extensive, and that was pretty well received as well, so we went through some of that. We also offered 2-night sessions where parents could actually come at night, where both the parents could come if they wanted to. They came without the children, and we presented it as more of a workshop type of model where we presented what are the kinds of things that you expect in kindergarten. We don't do a checklist. We don't do a big expectation of what we want for them. We really talked about, these are based on the questions that we've had over the past years about what is it, that you want the children to be able to do. And sometimes, there's that, well, you want to do this, and, you're expecting them to count, you're expecting them to do their letters. No, that's our job, but these are some of the things that parents can provide for the children between now and then, different kind of affective kind of things and things like that. So we had some handouts and a PowerPoint on that, and that seemed to be well received as well. This summer, we're also going to, PTA is working with us in collaboration for 2 days that we're going to have where parents can come in and tour the school. Because even parents that have been in the building before, if they haven't had a kindergartner or a child in our building for a couple of years, they would not realize the layout and how different it is. That's one of the things that we did with the preschool directors when they came in too, so that they could see how the kindergarten classes are all in the same area, they all have the same drop-off area, they all go to the same lunchroom, they all go to the same cafeteria, etc. So that was our kindergarten, and certainly we expect that would affect the academic and social and emotional needs of children if we can help the parents along with that as well, whatever ways we can. Another thing is we're working again with the merger of the 2 buildings and the efforts, to try to make us a very cohesive group. I think we've had a wonderful first year of that, and continuing our efforts, we are working more consistently to build a building-wide behavior support system for the children in terms of what are our expectations for everybody in all the common areas and all the different places in the building. So we started with a survey that we gave to staff. Then leading into my last bullet, we had PTA again has funded us a grant where we are having an individual come in that's going to be doing workshops starting on June 22nd. She's going to do, we're rotating 3 workshops for all of the staff. It's based on the premise that it's sort of from the opposite of anti-bullying, but it works from the proactive view, as Tim was saying before, so that we don't have to be in reactive mode so much. And so it works on one caring adult is what it's called, and it's not a program. It's a way of thinking where you try to present to staff. You try to get staff all on the same wavelength on that. We will have a workshop for everybody in June. We'll have one in August, and then we'll have another one further into the year. We also have 6 workshops that we're offering for students as well, by grade, where they come in and they speak to the children in the cottage, and it's based on the premise of not bullying so much, but it's if you do things that are mean, this is how you deal with that. And so it gives them the tools and it gives them the supports for how they work with it. Because the question that was asked was, what do you do when you don't have the mental health staff that you really need to have? So one of the ways is how do we build our armor better? How are we more supportive? And then further into the year, then we have another individual that will be coming in to do parent workshops. So we're trying to tie all 3 of them together: the parent, the student, and the staff. And that's everything.
Okay. Again, to piggyback, because we are trying to have children transition from one school to the other, so they do have a greater feeling of that K-5 experience that many different towns have that we don't have. So with that transition there, we too have been working again each year to enhance the way we transition our 2nd to 3rd grade children, building on the experiences that we've had from the years before. And we do have not only staff go down, and this year we've increased it by having our mental health team going down, visiting children and classes to get a better feel for the 2nd graders coming up to 3rd grade. If we have children who have certain kind of needs or just programs in general, we're trying to have that more cohesive feeling of what it's like to be in 2nd grade and then jump to 3rd grade. And having our staff being visible and being able to see and observe what's going on, I think will help make a smoother transition for these children coming up. And as they have had their, we call ours our positive behavior support plan that we have, which piggybacks on all children understanding and knowing if you do something, what's the consequence going to be. In years past, before this year we had started this year, but we're looking to enhance it. In the past, one house might have had certain consequences, another house might have had different consequences. And what you find is if children end up in the art room and you have children from 4 houses, the art teachers may not be following what's going on in one house and the other. So we're trying to get that systematic throughout the building so the children aren't confused. Because what would often happen would be children would say, well, in this area I don't have a consequence for X, but when I'm up in the art room, I get a consequence for X or vice versa. And we didn't want that to be happening. We wanted it to be school-wide where children would be able to have that feeling of comfortability being there, having self-respect, having respect for others, having respect for adults as well. And our mental health team has worked along with staff to help work on this. And these have been shared with parents at open house, will be shared again, and they are being incorporated into our handbook. So it's clearly spelled out for everybody. So we're revising the handbook to include that more specifically. We've always had a general statement and overview, but we're putting more specifics in. We've also continued to do more communication with parents, and with the support of Edline, we've been able to really work on that, getting more
instructional information out for the different curriculum areas. We've revised a lot of that and posted updated curriculum overviews for parents. We've used it for that communication so that the social emotional needs of the children very often spills over and comes home. And children at this age still don't take things home, so having things on that backpack or posted in the pop-up made it very convenient for parents this year, and that has been a really good experience for us at Cider Mill using the new website. We've provided training in school, both afternoon and an evening session for parents on the Ed line, so that we would be able to hopefully get them up and running on it. We had small crowds come, but we did have people come, and we are planning to do more of that so people are feeling, because people are still not quite as comfortable as they should be using it. And we're finding that it's children who are going in and navigating for the parents. And even though the parents have their passwords, there are certain things that...
We don't need to go to that site.
There are certain things that parents would be able to get in and view that children may not be able to get in and view. So therefore, there are some things that we put up for parents, and the parents are using the children's password, so they're not getting it. So we're working out some of those little things. And I think I shared last time that we were hoping to be able to put our placement for this year up on the website, and that way getting more parents to go on and use the website in order to find out where their child is being placed. And we're hoping that that will be something that will really get many people started in using it if they haven't been using it. Our community outreach for the social emotional needs of children, not only for themselves but others. And I know we've come before you with different things that we've done for the senior center, for the people over in Japan. We continue to do people right here at home. Each quarter, one of our houses provides food for the food pantry. And the children actually take it up there. Well, they used to take it up there, but we've got such an overflow that's too much for the children. So thanks to the town of Wilton, we do send the fellows out to pick up the supplies that we send. But we do get the children up there so they can actually see it on the shelves in the pantry. And we really thank everybody for that. As well as supporting, we do have families in need for school supplies at the beginning of the year, so we've continued our backpack for children as well for our children reaching out.
Yes, thank you. Following the unfortunate situation that occurred at Middlebrook in November on the playground at lunchtime, that we've obviously looked at everything we're doing and tried to be certain that we have a common language. And of course, the resident expert is Dr. Joanne Freiberg, who is on my speed dial, and we invited her to come to present to Middlebrook on our faculty in January on positive school climate. And Cheryl's point instead of is what are you doing to create a positive school climate? And again, the same language. If you try to define bullying, it's difficult to do. She took us through an exercise. Is this or isn't it? But then if you try to define the word mean, it's easy to do. And her motto, which sounds very simplistic, is if it's mean, intervene. And that's staff. And it's not always big things. It's little things that happen on the playground or in the hallway, which is where most things happen. So her language and her training has been most beneficial to all of us, and we will continue to work with her and certainly talk to her as we need to. I think as you saw those outstanding high school students today, here tonight, we had a similar experience. On June 1st, the Wilton High School Peervention students came to Middlebrook to present to our 8th graders. And last year, 8th graders had sent questions. This year, the students came down and they met with the children, and our students learned the unspoken rules for freshmen. I didn't know this, but where you sit in the cafeteria if you're a freshman is by the cash machines, not by where you don't necessarily sit where the upperclassmen sit. And only students can tell. Just so you know, we learned the rule about the swimming pool on the fourth floor. Try tryouts, but the nicest, and you can carry your backpacks, but the teachers are very nice at the high school, and you need to learn to advocate, and there's a whole different attendance policy they learned. But kudos to your children and your teachers, Tim. They were wonderful.
Well, the Middlebrook graduates.
and the kids couldn't wait to go visit their Middlebrook teachers. So after they finished presenting, they went out. But it's just really a tribute when you look from Cheryl's end and you see them go through the high school. You can see the results of the educational experience with obviously the positive parent support. And finally, looking at outreach, as you heard earlier about Mike Plude, our creed for the students is how do you make a positive difference in the lives of others. And we encourage students to generate their own service projects. And this year, student government brought several projects to the instructional leader team. But one of them was and this obviously gives the children leadership opportunities, but one of them was they did a soccer tournament. This was totally student-driven to support the Adaptive Sports Center in Colorado that a sibling of one of our students has attended over the years. And the children led it with their hearts. They set up all the games. The final game, they weren't even on the right teams, but they were playing for the right teams. Because people had other obligations. And they even had a halftime show. And that's the kind of thing you want to see, not just at Middlebrook, but in any school in our district. And I think that speaks volumes to who the children are.
Well, at the high school, we're very proud of our efforts as it relates to academic, social, and emotional learning. You've heard about our activity period assemblies on a wide range of topics. They're usually organized by grade level. We've covered topics such as driving safety, domestic violence, cyber safety issues, and of course our regular conversations around substance abuse and those issues around student alcohol and drug use. Our guidance team and administrators, we've been working on trying to develop a set of criteria that our classroom teachers can use to identify students who are having social and emotional concerns. It's just a fact that it's easier for teachers to identify students who are having difficulty on the academic side. But very often, what we're really focusing in on is this idea that students can be performing very well in the classroom. Even our best and brightest students who have A averages in classes, for example, could be experiencing serious social and emotional issues. So we're trying to help teachers try to, what are the telltale signs where you could have a social and emotional issue which may warrant perhaps a visit to a school counselor. That work's ongoing. I think it's important that we congratulate our town and our board and our staff for maintaining our current class size practices at the high school. We had this increase coming of 18 students, and we realized a 1.75 FTE increase. And I think the strategic plan helps support and leverage our need. It doesn't bring us to where we were historically in our class sizes. We're still have areas of need, but at least we maintained where we were. And I think that's really important, and that does directly impact the social and emotional well-being of students, not just their academic progress. We maintained our support staffing levels, and we also maintained our current levels of our club and activity program. So in this most difficult environment, we held the line there, and I think it's worth noting. And then finally, we were the pioneers here at the high school in the launch of the Power School Parent Portal for assessment, the teacher grade books. And it's been an interesting year. We've learned a lot, and we've talked about this before with the board, and I think it's been a great thing to help students develop advocacy skills. Some students are a little overzealous in their monitoring of their grades. Other students don't care much. So we're trying to find that balance. And it's actually the same thing I think that's true with parents. You have parents who are very vigilant in their oversight of grades, almost to the peril of their children. They arrive in the door and the computer screen's on a projector. And then you have some parents who haven't been inclined to take advantage of that opportunity. So I know Middlebrook's going to jump in next year, and this has really been a good thing. And the final thing I must say is it's bringing transparency again to the assessment process. So when you start talking about what I mentioned earlier on the curriculum instruction strand around transparency within assessment practices in the courses that all students take. Well, it's right there now in a way that's more transparent and visible, and I think it's bringing greater consistency of practice to our teachers in terms of their assessment. So it's not just about students knowing how well they're doing. It's also about an interesting phenomenon that we're seeing where I think teachers feel, whether that's good or bad, we can debate, but there is a greater accountability to their assessment practices just because the world sees their grade book.
And the district perspective of academic and social emotional is similar to what you've heard from everybody. The rollout of Power School, parent portals at Middlebrook and the high school will help students further develop their capacity for becoming more independent learners. Although, to echo what Tim said, although class sizes have increased to near historic levels, as we have heard say over and over, we were basically able to keep class size within our policy guidelines. In order to improve communication between home and schools, we redesigned the website so that all of the templates look the same. When parents go in, they can find the information the same way. In the past, the templates look different at each school, so it's becoming more accessible for parents to find when they have children at multiple sites. And in addition, as an extension of this strand, which was not one of the district tasks, we organized a viewing of the documentary film Race to Nowhere, a film that addressed schools and parents' roles in reducing unnecessary stress on students. The film was followed by a panel discussion led by health professionals from Greenwich Hospital. All of our instructional leaders and administrators viewed it and participated in a panel discussion. It was not as long as we wanted. We could have had the Greenwich people here much longer, but we were getting into the 5:30, 6 o'clock range, and after a full day, that's really not the best opportunity to have more discussion, but at least we had some very good eye-opening conversations and experiences. And just so that, to echo Julia about Joanne Freiberg, we have brought Joanne into this district for the past 2 years, and we have booked her again for the administrative roundup in August. She is so sought after that we missed our opportunity to bring her back for the teachers in November. However, she has recommended somebody that she has trained. So we are going to continue that professional development for all our teachers on improving climate in the building. Rather than talk about bullying, we are talking about the climate and culture of the building. So, Gary, did you want to add something to questions? And then we'll go into the special services, because that ties right into the academic and social emotional. Okay.
Thank you. I think you all know Dr. Fred Rapsinski, who's our very capable director of the preschool program, and also has really brought our extended school year program, really ramped it up, and really improved that program in the time he's been with us. Heidi Carlin is our assistant director of special services for the K-5 level, and again, we're so blessed to have two very capable or several special services administrators here tonight to talk about their year and some of the initiatives that they have led. And again, I'm so pleased that our parent advisory group is here with us as well.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Fred and I are going to be presenting on behalf of Ann, and we're looking forward to sharing with you. Our focus in the report is really going to be on the ongoing initiatives, and that's the core work from special education this year. We've heard a lot about technology tonight, so within the larger umbrella of technology, of course, special education is working very diligently to grow in its efforts in the area of assistive technology. This year we've continued with the purchase training. and the use of assistive technology software. There was a survey done with CES, and they helped the district to identify needs and match programs, tools, and equipment to the needs of our kids across all levels. We've also had the expanded use of technologies, I think as you've heard from the rest of the presentations tonight, in the general ed classrooms as well as in the special ed classrooms. This has helped to increase the student learning and access to the curriculum for our kids with particular needs. Again, as mentioned, the staff across all levels of the district are really being trained to be fluent in the use of the technology, whether it be a tool, whether it be a software program. So that is a big initiative that we've been attending to. The next initiative, services for students with autism spectrum disorder and other developmental disability, is a focus of ours. Again, this year we've done some new things. Christine Peck came in from CES, who's a very trained psychologist in the area of working with children with autism, and she's worked with our school psychologists to help in the assessment of kids with autism spectrum disorder. And the school psychologists across the district at all levels have been available and participating in her training. Again, with this population, the iPads, the iPods, the smart boards have been huge tools to help facilitate not only communication and the learning, but really help the children and the staff and peers bridge play, bridge social interactions. So those tools have been very important, and we look to see that their importance is only growing. The team meetings that we hold, they're multidisciplinary. This is the school staff and the parents meeting together. It's an informal meeting, and it's been a great way where we communicate, we collaborate, we problem solve. We have a lot of great discussion and planning for the students. And the continuation of individualized programming, for example, the IEPs, is always a core to the children in terms of their learning and what they need and their goals and the program that we're planning at all levels. Fred's going to take us through the next two initiatives.
Within the preschool, we've had a dramatic increase in our population over the past 3 years, and that's necessitated some creative and flexible scheduling and use of our resources. And we've continued to do that every year as our population has increased. And the increases are outlined on page 10 on the end of the year report, if you'd like to see details about that increase. But we, as I said, continue to refine our programming to meet those needs. Another thing that we've been focusing on this year is our staff identified a need to increase our understanding of and responsiveness to parental concerns and issues related to diagnosis and prognosis involving young children, especially when the diagnosis is first delivered, at usually age 2 or 3 years old. And we've met, the preschool staff has met a number of times this year with Karen Bailey, a social worker from the Yale Autism Program. And our staff have benefited tremendously from that work, and it's influenced their everyday interactions with our families. We've also this year introduced art and music therapy in our program, and those are particularly powerful programs when you're talking about servicing children with severe challenges in communication. The art and music provide alternative modalities for those students, and we've gotten a tremendous return with those services, and our children have made some pretty dramatic progress in their ability to communicate. We've also jumped on board the technology wagon and have smart boards in each of our preschool classrooms, and we have begun to introduce the use of assistive technology in the form of iPods. And again, when you're working with young children who are challenged in communication, those technologies have proven to be very powerful in enabling them to make progress in their communication skills. It's pretty traumatic. I invite any of you down to the preschool to take a look at 3-year-olds using smartboards. It's pretty impressive.
That's humbling.
And we do have students who, if you put a cell phone down on a table, within about 2 seconds, they will be texting to various people that they know numbers for. That it's amazing, and that's not an exaggeration. It does happen. So those are some of the things that we're excited about. We also are focusing on developing more programs for social skill development, and that seems to be a common theme throughout the district, and it is an issue that we deal with also at the preschool level. And we're providing more social skill groups. We have included in the middle part of the day play groups of varying sizes and various activities for our students, and that's also pretty impressive to watch the development of negotiation skills, conflict resolution skills, again with 3- and 4-year-olds, and those things are happening. So we're excited about that. Regarding the extended school year program, we're doing some creative programming in that area also. We have utilized our resources, and we'll be expanding that this year to facilitate transitioning of students from one level to the next. We've emphasized that with the preschool to the elementary level, but not exclusively. But that has been that area. That level has received a lot of attention, and those are with students who are Wilton students who are in our preschool program, and they're transitioning to Miller Driscoll. But we've also expanded to this year. We did receive a large number of referrals from community-based preschools very late in the year. So these are students who have been identified as being at risk, but we haven't had the chance to really have them in our program to do either RTI work within the community-based programs or to bring them into our program and work with them. So this summer we'll be including a number of those students in a program that is designed to transition them into the Wilton Public Schools, to have both special education and elementary school staff work with them and begin to gain a better understanding so that when they do enter kindergarten this fall, we'll be better prepared.